All right, everybody. I'll turn this light down a little bit. Woo. That's better. All right. I'll wait a little bit, give people a chance to jump in. All right. What's up, everybody? Give it a quick second. People a chance to jump in. Go do me a favor and go ahead and give this video a share. Wyatt Osborne, what? Bro, no joke, I was literally talking about you 2 weeks ago. No, 2 weeks ago? Yeah, 2 weeks ago. And I'll talk about how we first met in a conversation about Fallout right at a campfire in Fort Wayne, Indiana. So anyways, good to hear from you, bro. So hey, family, do me a quick favor. Give this a quick share. I'm just going to, man, this is obviously a topic that is, man, it's very important to talk about. Every pastor, every leader, every professor, anybody who has any voice or influence in anybody's life, listen, this is super important to talk about. I did a video a couple of weeks ago. Regarding this matter as well, and I just noticed that the picture of my son looks crooked, but the camera's crooked. But there he is, his cute self right there. See that? Right there, his afro. Bet. So cool. I'll wait a quick second. I wanted to give people time to jump up on here. Maybe another 10 seconds. We're going to go ahead and get started. As we're doing, family, obviously many of you have probably already read about George Floyd. He was the black man that was killed, murdered by the police officers as they were arresting him, detaining him, and things of that nature, right? So many of you have already seen the video. If you have not already seen it, I encourage you to see it. And this conversation I want to have with individuals because for me, myself, it has always been a frustrating conversation to let some of my always good intended and gracious individuals, my white friends and across the board, that sometimes racism existed, or the question was like, well, he should have done this, or if this would have happened, I wouldn't have done that, right? And so, but I think this video's gives attention to how sometimes me or people who look like me doing all the right things still ends in a horrible, tragic ending, right, with his death. So, but here's the thing. But even beyond that, beyond everything that has happened there, there is a big issue regarding police brutality, regarding racism, regarding prejudice, regarding any of these all the above that we need to start talking about. Okay, there's so much taboos, and I mentioned this in the previous video, and I just felt like it was very important just to echo it again, especially if some of you eyes were opened up last time, that you got woke to see the reality that is really going on in our world and in our society, that this is not just some random things that happen. This is a weekly occurrence. This is a daily occurrence that happens, that it gets frustrating to say the least, right? And so, but I believe it's a powerful thing that happens when people realize that they have an opportunity to hold a flashlight. And again, I tell you all the story everywhere I go. I maybe even mentioned it before about the moment where I picked up a plank of wood that was laying down on the ground in my backyard in Eden, North Carolina. And it was laying there, and this story just makes a lot of sense to me. And I hope it'll make a lot of make sense to you. It's been laying there for a long time in such a way that the grass around it turned white. So it's curious to see what was going on under that plank of wood. It's been laying dormant, laying untouched for a long time. I lift up the plank of wood, and all of a sudden, all these roly-polies, beetles, and earthworms started moving around, scurrying around, started wiggling around. And I realized this, family, that they didn't start moving around because They were intimidated by me. They didn't start moving around. Those bugs were laying dormant and just chilling in darkness. They didn't start moving around because I bucked at them, because I mean mugged them, because I talked junk about their mama. They started moving around because when I gave attention to what was dormant, when I gave attention to what was silent, when I gave attention that was untouched, my action brought light into that darkness and things started to move. There's so much things that's happening right now, family, where people are many are finally blowing the whistle, holding the flashlight, and giving attention to an issue that has always happened. And so I'm a chocolate black man. That is who I am. I've always been that, and I am black by divine design. When God knit me together in mother's womb, before the Father before I was even a thought in my mom and dad's mind, I was destined. I was thought about to be who I am. My stature, my size, the color of my skin. You as well. Your white is not by accident. Your black is not by accident. Your Asian is not by accident. Your Hispanic, Latino is not by accident. Your Indian is not by accident. You are who you are by divine design. Thus, with this in mind, to say that God doesn't care about color or don't care about culture is extremely oxymoronic in that, because it is in his heart. Why? Because it's in his DNA, it's in his creation, right? So we just need to learn how to start talking about these things instead of creating such a expectation of silence. And so this video is not simply intended to just this video is intended to talk to my white brothers and sisters, my white brothers and sisters, that maybe this issue of race and addressing this and talking about this is scary. And let me tell you, I get it. Okay? I get it. I have been, and I remember this was years ago. This is before I met my wife. This is before I met my wife for anything. I vividly remember this. I was in Houston, Texas. No, I was in Houston, Texas. No, where's I at? I was at the one thing. No, Houston, Texas, when I went down to with Lou Engle and all them. He didn't know me, but the group of people when we prayed, Houston, Texas. But this is before, I forget where I was at. But it was at the One Thing conference with IHOP, International House of Prayer. And Lou Engle was up there speaking. He's a prayer warrior and things of that nature, an activist. And he stood up, and I remember years ago, before I even knew my wife, before I even met her, he stood up and he said, there come a day and time where the black and Hispanic voice is going to have to rise up. And he started prophesying. And I remember it just it pierced my spirit. And I had no idea what all that meant. And then later I know, now that I'm married a Mexican, from Michoacan, Mexico, my wife, and I just feel like I have a responsibility to create a world where my son will not be tolerated but celebrated, right? And so all this to say, family, I want to once again extend my time to you, pastors. Silence cannot be the answer. Your congregation is tired of silence. It doesn't fix anything. It doesn't resolve anything. It makes things worse. But I understand that it could be many times, and as I talk to many of my friends and pastors that I met along the way, sometimes it can just seem like, well, I don't know where to start. I don't know what to say. I don't know the right words. But let me tell you, family, there's so many people that will give you an amount of grace that you would be absolutely amazed by, because you are simply trying to talk about this. Not a PR push, not a segue from worship into the word before the announcement, not a PR push, but a legitimate conversation that you are showing your church to have, how to have. Right? How to talk about race, how to talk about issues, how to talk about police brutality, how to talk about these things. And so I just want to encourage you that it's okay not to know all the answers. It's okay not to know all the right words, but it's not okay not to say anything at all. It is not okay to stay silent. And I can tell you this because I just don't understand. And I get the messages all the time when it comes to an area of issues and and hate crimes and across the board, black and white, across the board, that they're wondering like, man, why aren't no one's telling me anything? Why didn't they say anything? Listen, the post-traumatic stress, the issue, the anxiety, what does PTSD stands for? Post-traumatic stress disorder, the deep issues of anxiety, stress, all these things that's in the black community generationally, and is passed on generationally due to deep fear, the high blood pressure, everything connected to that, through a deep, deep fear of life and death every single time you leave the house. Wondering where you're gonna go. Are you driving to the right place? You get pulled over by the cops. Is this a time where you will live? Is this a time where are you encountering a good cop or a bad cop? And the thing about it, a good cop and a bad cop always look the same way. You never know who it is until you're in the midst and the heat of the moment. And so what makes conversation in situations like George Floyd so difficult is that once again, it's a couple example of bad cops that has ruined the image and the work and the heart of great cops. I have a lot of awesome police officers who are my friends, right? And so there's so much stuff going on that silence will not fix. Silence, when we are silent in the matter, it gives hate an opportunity. It gives ignorance an opportunity. It gives systemic racism an opportunity to create and lead the conversation. But I believe, family, as this word, man, is so filled with so much wisdom, that we can be the ones who help our congregation start the conversation. I said it before, this is not about soapboxes. This is about coffee tables. This is not about standing on my soapbox, wagging my finger, and just to get an attention. This is how to have a conversation with an audience. And so one of the most incredible ways to do that, pastor, leader, teacher, is to have someone beside you helping you have the conversation in public. Listen, in public. It is a powerful thing that happens when you and I, or even maybe you don't bring in me, maybe bring in someone, again, that is not going to be some PR mess, but maybe that you legitimately, that you put on the platform with you, that you say, hey, let's talk about this. Not a PR stuff. Listen, PR things ruins a moment. It doesn't help it. A PR opportunity, and the things that happen with Ahmad, and things that happen with George, and things that happen with all these other individuals, and things that happen that is not fixed, that's not fixing anything, is drawing a deeper wedge through in the hearts of people in your church. Wondering, man, why did that talking about what I'm talking about? And again, I understand that this is scary. I understand that maybe you may toss in your mind, well, if I talk about this thing, because of so many confusion, I know that as many people in my church is not going to get offended. People in my church, and people may walk out. I may lose tithe payers. But let me tell you this: if you will shut up, if you will speak for $1, you will shut up for $1. You will dance for $1. And I understand the holistic vision and being smart and being wise. But I am saying this, family, this can no longer be an issue you hide behind. But I'm giving myself. I'm not asking for money. I'm not asking for anything. I'm asking for you to seize this opportunity that you and I can show the church how to talk about this. There are words, there are heated words, there are hot words that immediately end a conversation because people know how to talk about it because there's so much misinformation. And even tell you, and every single time I even mention this particular word, people immediately clock out because they don't understand the definition. When the term white privilege, listen, the term white privilege has nothing to do with how hard someone works. It's within someone, when you hear the term white privilege, it is not saying that you don't work hard. You didn't work for your degree. You didn't work for your business. You didn't bust your butt. That is not saying that it was just handed to you, that you put no attention to it. That is so far from the truth. And the kingdom of the air, fam, this misconstrued information, the enemy is robbing and lying to people. That is not what white privilege is. White privilege is the moment that you have when you get pulled over by the police officer, you get pulled over for a broken taillight, that the first thought in your mind is not, am I going to die? Am I going to be accused? Do they think I look like somebody? It's not where is it going to go? It's okay. Am I going to get a ticket? Or am I going to get a warning? Or are they going to let me go? You know what I'm saying? So white privilege is, again, I want to be very clear, because I think the reason why there are a lot of times we can't have this conversation in predominantly, I'm using the word white, I hope that's okay. My white brothers and sisters churches, which I have the many times and opportunities that you have flew me, or I have paid myself to have an honor to sit behind your pulpit, preach the gospel, be in your conventions and your camps, to pour into your congregation, which I'm so appreciative of and thankful for, right? And so I get the dynamics of like, let's say Midwest, for example, and all of the above. But family, listen, this term it has so much misinformation that it closes people's ears off, so we can't talk about it. And the reason why we have to address, as we talk about, I'm not talking about the racist simply. I'm talking about racism. But racism, family, is directly connected to a systematic issue embedded in our nation, to our justice system, to our police officers, to not a police officer, but how things are going through our correctional facilities, right? It's systemic racism, systemic prejudice is embedded in all of this. Thus, if we do not address how we are viewing things incorrectly, if we don't address how society has the screen image of the black community is being affected, then we cannot address racism, right? Because it's systemic. Again, for the people in the back and those who are just chiming in, the issues that happened with Ahmaud, issues that happened with George Floyd, issues that happened with all the people, Trayvon Martin, issues that happened with all these other individuals. You can take Google, just put one Google, and it seemed like a laundry list of individuals pop off. The reason why this conversation doesn't happen is because if you look at your church and said, well, they're not racist. I'm not talking about the racist. I'm talking about the racism, the systematic issue that causes someone to look at a person with cornrows and wondering, hey, are they up to no good? To see the person with sagging in his jeans wondering, oh man, they're less of a person. To see the person jogging in a neighborhood wondering, why are they in this neighborhood? To see the black man last week who was on a delivery truck in a neighborhood and he got cut off by someone in the neighborhood while not letting him go. Family, that where now someone doing, what do you call it when you're not a police officer? Citizen's arrest is dangerous, right? And so, family, I want to help you address these issues. And can I be blatantly honest with you? I was overwhelmingly disappointed after my last Facebook Live regarding this topic, this issue, because I really believed, family, that and again, I'm believing this too. I'm like, God, feed my faith. I really believe that I will have so many pastors that say, hey, yes, let's do this. You know what? Shout out to Pastor David. Shout out to Pastor Dustin. Shout out, man, to Pastor Tim. Shout out to, to Pastor Elizabeth. And shout out to, and Corbin. Shout out to all these. I literally thought, man, this can be a moment that we can do something. Listen, we must. I'm not asking you for money. I'm not asking you for anything at all. I'm asking you, will you help me help you? Why am I talking to pastors? Why am I talking to you specifically? Did I say the word right? Specifically. Why am I saying this? Because you are called to shepherd your flock. And not just the white ones. All of them. You're called to your community. Not your communities, your community, family. You are called. And so at the same time where you may be misinformed to say, man, God doesn't see color, or I'll just not talk about it, and we'll just ignore the situation. Where you may have some group of people who may go about their day, you have those pockets of ethnic individuals in your church wondering, do he or she not care about me? Going through deep anxiety, deep depression, suicidal thoughts, struggling with hate, with how to handle hate, how to handle racism, how to handle these things. But family, you as the shepherd, you have an opportunity to help your church navigate all of this. What I'm saying you to this, it's okay not to know all the answers. It's okay it's okay not to know. It's okay. And I think in your great heart, like this really has been I believe some of you, this really has been your conviction. Well, I don't know, I don't want to say the wrong thing, or I don't know the right words to say. But let me tell you, there's a lot of grace given for someone trying than someone that's silent. And that's why I want to help you. I want to help you help your church reach the community. Reach your community, not reach the community God has called you to shepherd. And listen, and I remember, it is not, what God has placed you in that city is not for people who look like you, it's for that city. Acts 1:8, the role of the Holy Spirit is the role that on the day of May, thank you, Lord. May 31st, we celebrate the day of Pentecost. Okay. Pentecost is a festival of harvest. Acts chapter 2, you see what happens as they're all together in one place in the upper room. The Bible says the Holy Spirit came like a mighty gush of wind and filled the whole house, and all of them began speaking in tongues, Spirit enabled them, right? All of this, right? But right before Acts chapter 2, Acts chapter 1, verse 8, God tells them the why the baptism of the Holy Spirit, the role of the Holy Spirit is so important. And he says, when the Holy Spirit comes upon you, you will be witnesses in all Jerusalem, all Judea, all Samaria, all the ends of the earth. The Great Commission is not once you reach your city, once you reach your family, then you reach your city, then you reach your church, then no. It's not sequential. It's simultaneous. And so I believe your ministry should be and must be cross-cultural. We go on mission trips. You invest in Speed the Light. You invest in missionaries. When you go overseas, you have a concrete understanding. Hey, I'm stepping into a culture that's different than me. And so thus, let me learn the culture. Let me reach the culture. Right? So we understand this when we go on a missions trip. Okay. But why is it we throw this notion off when we come home? There's a mission trip in your backyard, and addressing the systemic issues and the problems and the hate and the pain that's going on in our society and our world is paramount. And I believe Acts 1:8 was written for moments just like this. Judea, Samaria, all the ends of the earth. So I want to ask you, family, just please, I don't know any way else to say this, and I've already got canceled, family. Listen, you wondering I wonder if you're getting slack for this, you best believe I am. I'm an evangelist, right? And so, that's my heart. I want to see lives souls saved and lives, but you best believe I'm catching some hell for this. Cancellations for this. Getting unfollowed, blocks for this. Just simply because having this conversation. But I refuse to dance for dollars. I refuse to speak for dollars. I refuse to shut up for dollars. This must be a topic that we are talking about, family. Because we can't stay silent anymore. To me, the silence is the sin. How can we sit idly by and not address this matter, but yet at the same time passionately preach pro-life? It doesn't compute in my head. We will march for pro-life for a baby in the womb, but stay silent for the grown colored person outside the womb. Pro-life. If we are going to be pro-life, and we need to be pro-life. So I hope you understand, and not just black, but all the above. So I hope you understand the magnitude of this situation, family, because it's real, yo. This is real. And you and I, all of us have an opportunity. And so yes, I'm talking to pastors. Yes, I'm talking to leaders. But let me talk about every other individual. You have an opportunity. You know that there's people in your workplace that is longing to have. Let me talk to my fellow chocolate brothers and sisters. Let me tell you. Listen, there's people in your life, in your workplaces, that may be longing to have this conversation, but they're so scared to offend you that they don't know where to start. What if you will initiate the conversation? What if you in a way say, hey, listen, I know you have seen this thing's going on. I know you've heard about what has happened with, again, George Floyd and Ahmaud and all these individuals. And I know you've seen this stuff, but I want to let you know that if you ever, I would love to talk to you about it. And I would love to hear you going on. I want to let you know, hey, it'd be absolutely incredible when you can disarm the fear and the hesitation regarding this, because I believe many people want to have this conversation, but they just don't know where to start. Because a lot of good meaning individuals are just scared to say the wrong thing. But silence cannot be the answer, family. So my black brothers and sisters, my family, initiate the conversation. Initiate it to your work, to coworkers. Initiate it to people around you. Initiate it to your neighbors. Let me tell you very clear what I've said. Get off that soapbox and create a coffee table. I'm not talking about yelling from a soapbox. I'm talking about creating conversation around the coffee table. And one of the best things you can do in having this conversation, my white brothers and sisters, my family, one of the most incredible things you can do is to bless each other with I don't know. So your conversation is not simply to prove, yes, going to be information that's factual. Your conversation is you're not going to have with the intent to prove. You're going to have a conversation with the heart to understand. With the mission to discover. When we can bless each other with this understanding that, hey, I don't know all the answers, but one thing we do know, something has to change. When we can bless each other with the I don't knows, you equip each other with the opportunity to discover truth. Where you're not simply standing on the soapbox, wagging the finger, but you're extending a helping hand. So, hey, let me help you in this. So let me tell you, family, I don't know, man, I'm typing the website in right now because I want you to reach out to me. There's a contact thing in there. Reach out to me on my website, tmmonline.org. There's a conversation. Let's talk about, let me help equip you. Pastors, leaders, if you're watching, silence cannot be the answer. Your silence is killing family. The spirit and the soul of the minority people in your church. You may thought, let me brush through it, it's going to be okay. It is killing your people that God has called you to shepherd and pastor. But the struggle, tug of war, it can be like, how do I say anything? I don't want to say the wrong thing. And I don't want to be political. Let me just crucify that lie that the enemy has implanted into many of you lies' hearts. Right? Let me crucify that lie right now. Racism, prejudice, and the issues, these social issues are not political. If I'm a politician and I make a statement that this cell phone is black, because I'm a politician and I say let's vote on making cell phones white, then my mission becomes political. Right. And but the problem is that every single time a topic arises that is passionate with a particular community group, politicians will speak on it. And thus then other individuals like, oh, well, no, now that's a no area for me. Don't fall in that trap. Racial issues, systemic issues, white privilege, these things that we must talk about. They're not political issues, they're social issues. In the same way, many Christians watching today, you understand this when you talk about abortion. I mention this, I'm saying abortion a lot because you preach passionately about it. You understand this when it comes to abortion. You're like, no, that's not a political issue, that's a social issue. Why? Because you're caring about lives. But I'm trying to tell you, Black lives matters. It's not a political issue, fam. Not a political issue. It's a social issue. It's a civil issue. It's a Jesus issue. It's a humanity issue. And this won't stop. This won't stop with just Facebook statuses. This will not be remedied with Instagrams. This will be remedied when you take up the mission to have the conversation to the people that you know. That you remove yourself from the comfortability of that soapbox and you create the conversations around that coffee table. This has the Father. You're absolutely right, Pastor David. This is a Jesus issue. It really is. Man, the messages that I could just, if I could have just showed you, share with you the messages that I get all the time with people from different congregations wondering, why doesn't my pastor care about me? Why don't they care about what's going on with me and people who look like me? Why they don't say anything? And here's the thing. I know you care about them. I know you care about them. But it's the silence. It's the silence that says otherwise. And maybe it's silent. You're silent because you just don't know what to say or how to say it. And that's why I'm having this video to once again to reach out to you, to beg you, to implore with you, to plead with you. Again, I've already been crucified because of this conversation. But you know what? You see that picture right there? I know it's black and white. You see that black skin? I'm black. My wife is Mexican. Is that black skin child right there? That's my why. That's my why. And my son will not grow up in a world where he's tolerated but celebrated. My son will not. I refuse, family, to simply travel and preach and live my life and not knowing I'm not doing all I can so for my son can feel safe when he gets pulled over, or my son can feel safe when he's running in a neighborhood, or my son can feel safe when he's going through a grocery store. I'm 6'6", 320 pounds. My son is gonna be bigger than me. That's my why, and this is why I cannot be silent. And until the issue of racism has a face for you, then you will continue to give yourself permission that your silence is okay, but it is not. It is absolutely not okay. We must speak up. You must speak up. I shared it before. It is a powerful thing. It's different when black people, minority people speak out against racism. But it's a whole different ballgame when white people speak up about it. Let me tell you. And some things I'm definitely addressing. I'm going to address is this, is that when I have these conversations, I remove this misconception that, okay, well, he's preaching white guilt. What? I'm not. If you had other people saying to you that, oh, be ashamed of being white. I'm not saying being ashamed of being white. I'm not. You are white by divine design. In the same way, I am black by divine design. White privilege is not white guilt. White privilege is white opportunity. And when you seize the opportunity that you have to speak up about racism, say, hey, this is wrong, then amazing things happen. Amazing things happen. How is it that an issue of Ahmaud happened 2 months ago happens right now, and you see out of all the other issues, I've never in my life witnessed something like this, where so many people from different walks of life, from different colors, the amount of my white brother and sister who spoke up for the first time, who saw injustice, who saw wrong for maybe the first time in their life and were addressed it, how things suddenly happen. Family, when we talk about these things, I'm not preaching white guilt. Don't be guilty of being white. I'm not preaching white shame, but you should see white opportunity. In the same way I see black opportunity. I have an opportunity. I have a moment as a black man. I have an opportunity to not let go to waste what Martin Luther King done. I have an opportunity making sure I'm not wasting the sacrifices of Malcolm X. I'm not wasting the sacrifices of Frederick Douglass. I'm not wasting the sacrifices of Harriet Tubman. I'm not wasting the sacrifices of, oh my gosh, my brain is running blank. Help me, y'all. Rosa Parks. I'm not wasting the sacrifice of all the forefathers from before me and sat in who refused to give up a seat and refused to drink up for that water fountain and refused to say, you know what, I'm standing up for myself. I'm not wasting the sacrifice of grandparents who done everything they could to make sure that their children can get an education. So my moment right now, my blackness is my opportunity. In the same way your white is your responsibility, your opportunity. You see what I'm saying, family? So we can't stay silent because the issue is systemic. The issue is systematic. Why is it, family? The same way when plantations, they created a slave quarter for the black community and placed them there. And you bring them on this side of town. And now you still have areas in a part of town where people are stuck in the system, where they can't get loans, where they can't get anything. So it's systemic. And that's why, family, I want to help you. I want to help you, pastor. I want to help you, leader. I want to help you have this conversation. I'm not yelling at you. Those of you know me, you know me. I'm not yelling at you. I'm just talking to you. You best believe it's a topic that I'm passionate about. So listen, if you stand up for pro-life, why are you not standing up for this? If you're passionate about unborn children, why are you not passionate about this? If you are fighting for the life of a child who's not even breathed his first breath here on earth, why are you silent about this issue? Because Black Lives Matter. They do. We must be vocal about this. I don't understand. And that's why, I want to create the conversation. I want you to educate me, help me understand. Because we can't stay silent. And you should refuse to. Because my son, every single time you see another person shot, every single time I see a person being like George Floyd being hit with a police officer's a knee on his neck, I don't see just anybody. I see my son. I see myself. So these needs to be a conversation that you're taking up. Take up your cross. Take up your cross. Take up your cross. Take up your cross. So again, I don't feel like I'm beating a dead horse, but you know what I'm saying, that expression, just talking about it. But listen, we have to have this conversation. And you have to have the conversation. Do not let this be just don't let this be another moment where you are fired up for 2 days and silent the third. Who do you know that looks differently than you? Have you reached out to them? Have you asked them how they feel? Have you talked to your black brothers and sisters, or Hispanic brothers and sisters, or your white brothers and sisters? Have you talked to them and said, hey, how are you handling? How are you doing? What are you doing? How are you going? How's it going? Because the PTSD is real. It's real. So having a discussion with my wife yesterday. Was it 2 days ago? Yesterday. So we said, well, I think it's time that I have my conversation with my son regarding how to handle police officers. And then they get woke up to see this on the news. It's just much confirmation. I said, no, I can't waste any more time. My son is 4. So listen, there are awesome police officers. I have a lot of friends who are in the law enforcement. And it makes it difficult in moments like this. But how do you know if it's a good cop or a bad cop? You don't know until you're in the heat of the moment. So I got to teach my son where to place his hands. Teach my son what words to say. Teach my son not place himself in this situation. I mean, the thing is real. But the conflict that we need to address is not just the racist, but the systemic racism. And that is embedded in our country and in our nation. It's in the rebar, it's in the concrete, it's in the concrete of our nation. Listen, I'm in love with what America could be. I'm in love with what America could be. Hear my words. Could be. I'm in love with it because I know it's possible. I know it's possible for my son to grow up in a world where he's not tolerated but celebrated, but it's going to happen. The only way will happen when you give attention to the systemic issues going on in our life. And pastors, shepherds, leaders, you are the Josephs. You are the Daniels. You are. So let me help you address it. Obviously, when we discussing your church and when we're sitting down, I'm super thankful, man, for Pastor David Grieve. If he's still watching. Here in a couple of weeks, I'm heading up to Indiana having this conversation. And I'm the bravery and the courage and this man is so amazing. We're sitting down and we're discussing, having this conversation, not a PR thing. And we get to show people how to do it. Same way you teach your church street evangelism, we get to show them how to do it. How to address it. Where I get to learn, he gets to learn. We get to show the church how to talk and to be passionate about, hey, let me be more like Jesus. Because that's how we're going to do it. So if you're a pastor, if you're a leader, message me. My website is right here. Again, I'm not asking you for a dime. Obviously, we travel as evangelists and we're in COVID. We're in COVID right now. The struggle is mad real. But listen, I'm not asking you for a dime. I'm not asking you for money. I'm asking for a moment. I'm asking you to let me help you. Let me help you reach the people in your church. Let me help you reach the people in congregation. Because the time is now. Mother, if Hezekiah is awake, can you bring him to me, please? Listen. Is he awake?
Yes.
Can you bring him to me, please?
Yes. Kaya, come here, baby.
Listen, family. I don't even know where to say it. But we need to talk about it. And you need to talk about it.
Me?
Yeah, come here, bud. Because, what's your name?
Hezekiah.
Hezekiah. How old are you, Hezekiah?
4.
4. And where do you live?
In the land.
The land?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Right? So what's your mommy's name? Nadai. What's daddy's name?
But daddy, maybe you should wait till you choose them out.
Yep, I'm black. Mommy's Mexican. What are you? Blaxican. Right? And so this is my son. Right? And I love him dearly. And they showing a picture of himself right there. Right? And when every single time I see stories like George Floyd, and thank you, buddy, and stories like Ahmaud, stories like, thanks, buddy, like Trayvon, stories like these other issues where people, first time they see it, like, oh, well, he should have did this. He should have done this. It breaks my heart, and I want to make sure that my son grows up in a world where he's not tolerated but celebrated. But let me tell you, family, this will not happen until we are intentional about having this conversation. So all pastors, every leader, every person watching this video, let me help you. You have brought me in. I preached in your churches. I preached in your camps. I preached in your conventions. I've shared the gospel with your children. Let me share God's love. I'm not asking you for money. I'm not asking you for an offering. I'm not asking. I'm asking, let me help you. Because there's people dying in your sanctuary every single week inside. As you're preaching on topics that may be relevant for some, but they're still wondering why they don't care about me. Let me help you, family. And again, I know that this is not a fun subject to share, because everybody has experienced hurt. But silence doesn't fix pain. Silence just cultivates it. Things doesn't go away with time. Things go away with attention. And if God has entrusted you, God has entrusted you. And again, I see a thing, this comment, and I address this as well. Again, I want to encourage you to read the previous comment, because God completely sees color. Absolutely sees color. We're the ones who hate people because of color. So this must be a conversation, again, that we're discussing. So every leader, every pastor, I want to help you have this conversation. I understand that it may seem like there's a lot of landmines. There's a lot of I don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't want to do the wrong thing. I don't want to offend anybody. I don't want to offend the black people in my church. I don't want to offend the Hispanic people in my church. Let me tell you, the silence is offensive, not the effort of trying. It's the silence. So when you are brave, when you are bold to even attempt to walk in this message, in this conversation, it's absolutely incredible. And again, I'm not talking about white guilt. That is so far from it. That is not even, no. But we're not talking about ending the conversation where each other one apologizes to each other. I'm talking about having the conversation where your church, your people in your church are being enlightened. They're being educated. They're being taught. They're getting to see who Jesus really is. Not this whitewashed example of a permed Jesus. No. Who Jesus really is. That he cares about each and everybody. He cares about you. He cares about your ethnic. He cares about your color. He cares about your pain. He cares about your stress. He cares about the state of your soul. Lead me beside still quiet waters where you restore my soul. And it is the soul of people that's being hurt right now. It's the soul. Their emotions, their personalities, their fears, their mind, their mental health, their soul. Family, and it's time that we address these things. And again, I know it's scary, but it's important, because silence cannot be the answer. So, I want to encourage you to reach out to me. My website's right here. And again, I've this past year, I have weighed, man, the pros. I've weighed the pros and the cons. Oops, I put the wrong website. I'm sorry. Let me finish that. I weighed the pros and the cons, because I knew that the moment I started talking about this, I would have the risk of being canceled, and I have been. At the risk of losing friends, and you best believe I did. The risk of silent conversations, you best believe that has happened. The risk of a questionable future, you best believe that's a reality. But I can't. I can't stay silent. I can't not talk about this. And I can't not help you talk about this. Because my son needs to grow up in a world where he's not tolerated but celebrated. And we will not fix this by simply addressing the racists. We must address the systemic racism that's embedded in a country that we all live in. So I'm in love with what America could be. I'm super in love with what America could be. And I believe Dr. Martin Luther King was in love with what America could be. Because we hear his eloquent speech that he had a dream. And you best believe I'm still dreaming that one day will come. But it won't happen by accident. It won't happen by the change of a calendar date. It's going to happen when you and I take responsibility for the state of our world, the state of our nation, where we address and evaluate the prejudices of our lives, because there's prejudice in you, there's prejudice in me that we have to address, and it's going to be scary, because you very well will realize that maybe there's some things in you that you're not proud that's there, because it's been systemically and systematically placed in you to view people in such a way. Right? And so again, this is simply an attempt, another video. I think this video has already gone super long already. And I don't know how many of you all are still with me right now. But this must be a conversation that we discuss. And if you stand up, and I say it 8,000 times, I'm going to say it 8,000 more times. If you stand up for abortion, if you stand up for pro-life, the sanctity of life in the womb, and you are silent about matters like this, I don't understand how you can call yourself pro-life at all. You just have a preference of life, the one inside the womb, but silent about the one outside the womb. This must be a conversation that we have. Pastors, leaders, teachers, government officials, anybody watching this video, let me help you have this conversation. Because one of the most incredible things you can do is when two people come together at a table and they bless each other with "I don't know." So they're not going to the table to prove. They're going to the table to discover. And they will realize that maybe there's things that need to change. My life was changed by a couple of events that really helped me really love my white brothers and sisters. Let me tell you why. There was one issue. I'm sorry. I'm trying to read comments and talk at the same time. I'm sorry. I'm going to go back and read these comments as when this video is over. But I remember, never forget. There's this family. Have you ever seen the movie Blind Side? There's this, I call him my Blind Side, mom and dad, right? If you've seen that, how they took him in and whatever. Man, that changed my life. Man. She loved me literally like I was her own son. I literally put clothes on my back. Literally loved me like I was her own son. Family in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Never forget it my entire life. And it totally changed me. It changed me. It helped me because I spent time with them. Because you best believe I was wondering, I spent time with them. It changed my perspective. It helped me to see maybe I had a lot of stereotypes that I didn't realize. And I had to confront the prejudice in my own life. But I couldn't confront the prejudice with information I read on Facebook. I had to confront the prejudice what that I had in my life regarding what I experienced. And when that family loved me the way they did, and now I've spending time and pastoring and being in the Midwest and all this other stuff, then seeing how there's so much stuff that they may do and say, and my white brother and sister may do and say, that is completely out of ignorance. It helped me to have some grace to realize that, hey, maybe they just don't know. Maybe they just don't know why. Maybe they are ignorant about the realities of what's really going on, and I realize I am right about that. So I just want to help you. I want to help you to see what's really going on in the communities and the minority communities and the pain that's really going on. And because we can address this, we can do something about this. But silence is not the answer. Attention is. So I want you to confront. First, there's a couple things I want to. This is my homework for you, pastors. Again, my homework for you. If I can give you homework, reach out to me. I'm going to be a telemarketer, reach out to you, just like every time before as an evangelist, where you could just simply ignore the number. But let me tell you this, please reach out to me. My number is right. My number is on my website, right here on the website. Again, TMM online. tmmonline.org, or inbox me or whatever. Reach out to me. Let's talk about this. I'm not asking you for money. I'm not asking you for nothing. I'm asking you for opportunity. I'll listen. We can't stay silent. You can't stay silent anymore. Your congregation is dying. They're dying. So pastors, reach out to me. Secondly, family, is this. If you're watching this, I want to encourage you to find a person that believes differently than you, that looks differently than you, right? And talk about it. Talk about that looks different than you. Talk about the see, I don't know if it's I mean, sorry, I'm reading a comment. It's beyond just blind spots. It's areas that we just ignore. That's the problem. And so I want to help people to see the blind spots, but it's the areas that we act like isn't there that's dangerous. So anyway, find someone that looks different than you. Find a white person, find a black person, find an Asian person, find someone different than you. Find all of them. Grab some coffee, have the conversation. Say, hey, tell me about your life. How do you feel? And mention these issues. Don't be afraid. Talk about these issues. Talk about, hey, there's this word called white privilege. This is how I feel. It makes me feel this way. It makes me feel like people saying that, hey, I'm lazy. I get everything handed to me. But listen, I work very hard. And you'll be amazed and say, listen, that's not what white privilege is. Like, what? But that's what the news told me. No. Be amazed. You'll be amazed how you can have that conversation. And so do you know why? Do you know that what happened to George Floyd is the very reason why Colin Kaepernick took the knee? Do you know that? Is the very 110% reason why. But all misinformation, everything, all this other stuff are misconstrued. And people had no idea. So then action that could have brought a national movement brought a bunch of national noise as people turned their deaf eye to the why. So again, that was free. There you go. But so anyways, so pastors reach out to me, have the conversation with someone who looks different than you, right? And I want to encourage you to do, if you can do this two simple things. Actually, let me give you one more. I want you to be brave enough. I want you to ask this. I want you to pray this prayer. Okay, it's gonna be brave prayer. I want you to pray this prayer. Pray that God help me to see my prejudices. I'm going to warn you. It's a powerful prayer to pray. And you may be sick to your stomach as God takes you on this journey of how quickly you put an entire people group in an absolute. Oh, those people there, or they, or the left, or the right, or them, or those guys, or, oh man, you got to watch out for this. Oh, you're going that side of town, or lock your door. You're going to realize that prejudice that you have is deeply embedded in your life. But let me tell you, God doesn't shine a flashlight just to pester a wound. He gets attention because he wants to restore you. So do those three things. Pastor, reach out to me, your leader, government official. You're watching this, I want you to reach out to your pastor and say, hey, there's a guy here who wants to help. Okay, I encourage you to do that. Secondly, talk to somebody tomorrow. Message them, say, hey, let's meet up for, actually, you know what, we're social distancing. Let's Zoom, let's FaceTime, let's do all this stuff and have a conversation. But don't avoid the big issues. Don't avoid it. Talk to them. Talk about it up front. Okay? And thirdly is ask God, God, help me to see the prejudice in my life. And I'm so thankful for the Stinson family who brought me in, that showed me, that opened my eyes to see the prejudices that I've had, the ignorance that I've had towards white people because I've never experienced. That I realize there's so many things they say and do that they have no idea why. And that family loved me and still loves me like their own son. And I love them dearly. But my life was changed not because of a Facebook status. So my life was changed through a conversation, through an experience, and we have the same opportunity. And I want to encourage you to confront the lie that this is a subcategory of Christianity, that this is not a biblical issue that needs to be discussed, that God doesn't really care about this. Confront that lie, because a lie from the pits of hell. A lie from the pits of hell. Because as long as we keep weaponizing the word of God to give us permission to be silent, we're creating a Christianity that's non-existent, that God doesn't exhort, that God doesn't dwell in. And I believe it's that Christianity that the Lord was talking about when they said, "Do not prophesy in your name, do not cast out demons in your name." And Jesus said, "I never knew you. Depart from me, the workers of iniquity." A faith without the love, a faith without the compassion, a faith without the grace, a faith without the justice. That's not Christianity. That's a manufactured, self-pleasing faith that we're creating, not the one that Jesus died for. If that is the case, then I don't know if Jesus is for me. You hear me? If that is the case, if Jesus endorses racism, if Jesus endorses the systemic prejudice and hurt of a people group, then Jesus is not for me. And I know that's not the truth. But the representatives and the examples of who holds a name tag of Christianity will share something otherwise. And there's many people running away from the faith because we are misconstruing his character. And not simply because the hateful words we say, but the silent words but the words we refusing to say because we're silent. So I want to, and again, I don't know how many of you are still watching me or watching this, joining me right now, but let me help you address racism. This has to stop. This has to stop. I feel like just the anger, man, that I feel, the sadness that I feel, the disappointment that I feel is real. And it's going to continue to happen as long as we keep giving attention to the racist and not the racism, which is systemic and is embedded in the foundations of our society. So I'm in love with what America could be. And I know I am nobody. I'm a 33-year-old guy. But you best believe, as Martin Luther King had a dream, I'm dreaming too. And I'm dreaming that one day that we're really going to witness unity. Not uniformity, unity. Not unity that's going to happen at a whip, but unity that has happened by love. And we find in Scripture God's example that says, make every effort to live in unity through the bonds of peace. Or should I say, like, every effort to live in peace through the bonds of unity? One of those. So let's make an effort. Let's make a stand. And let's break these things. Yeah, Melody, we've got to break these generational curses. But then let me leave you with this. One final thought. I want you to confront. I want you to confront this misconception, this lie that is keeping you from stepping forward in this conversation that God doesn't see color. Stop that. Let me say this. That is half of the truth, not the full truth. And I talked before, that notion that God doesn't see color is a half-sided truth to a particular narrative. The narrative for the white community saying that God doesn't see color is true because you may have grew up in a society where there was superiority. You know what I mean? What do you call it when what is it? It's a term I can't remember. Where again, black people drink from this water fountain, black people do this, white superior. There's a particular word I'm trying to find. I can't remember. White superiority. So you were taught by your mom. No. God didn't see color. They're the same people as us. No, that God loves them. All of it. You hear the same thing. I mean, you cut us inside, we'll all bleed red. That is true. That is true. Okay, from that narrative. But for people like me, when you say God didn't see color, you're saying God didn't see my culture. He didn't see me. He didn't see what makes me. I'm an accident. My blackness and the ups. No. God does see my color because God sees me. And he molded me, created me to be me. That my black is beautiful. That my black is by divine design. That your Asian is by divine design. Your Hispanic is by divine design. Your white is by divine design. So you understand the sense? So James Brown had to say, I'm black and I'm proud. Right? Because he grew up in a society saying that his black was dirty. See what I'm saying? So you got truth spoken from you got two powerful truths but spoken in two different narratives. But I'm saying this to my white brothers and sisters where you have been taught simply just stopping at the notion, great heart. Like I said, so many people have great heart that God doesn't see color. That is half of it. Because if you don't see color, then you're not seeing people. And then you're defaulting them into who you perceive them to be. But that's not them. So again, I can talk about this for about a minute. I feel like I've talked probably already for an hour and a half or something. And I don't want to again beat a dead horse, but I would love to continue this conversation. Message to me, talk to me. Let me tell you, can I ask you all to pray for me? Please. This every single time I have took a step to overcome any sort of worry, anxiety, fear, any sort of excuses, all hell broke loose. It happened that when I wrote my first book, Crowns Are Greater Than Trophies. Then my wife got super sick, wrote this book called This Is Your Chance. All hell broke loose. And now I know that I've already experienced the cancel culture already. Already experienced, people unfollowing messages, shouldn't talk about this, should be quiet. Already experienced loss of friends, already just addressing this. Not doing it in anger, not doing it in wrong, not doing anything, addressing this because it's so taboo. And I travel as an evangelist. And so I know that there's a great possibility that the same people who would have scheduled me this year will not schedule me now no more because I'm talking about this stuff. But let me tell you what I had to tell myself. I had to tell myself that God is Jehovah Jireh. He is the provider. And that I'm believing that God is going to expand the territory of my ministry, of our life, that where other people have discarded us, it's a group of people who's going to welcome us. And that we're going to be able to have this conversation and literally lead the nation in this conversation and people in the nation in this conversation to help churches, to help people to find this message of reconciliation, which is the gospel, which has the Lord's heart. So I want to ask you to pray for me, pray for my family. And there's my battery. My battery's about to die. So pray for me, pray for my family. Know that, again, this fight is not just for me. This fight is for you. Not talking about my black brothers and sisters. I'm talking about white brothers and sisters and all this other stuff. All the individuals that you're watching here. This fight for all of us. To address systemic racism brings healing to all of us. To all of us. But in order to address it, we got to look at some ugly things in the mirror. And that's not going to be fun. And no one wants to. The doctor's going to always, the physician will get blamed and get yelled at from telling the patient they have cancer. But actuality, but they don't say they have cancer. They don't address it, the sickness. They don't acknowledge the problem. Then there can't be proper steps to bring healing. So again, pray for me, please. And know that I'm going to be praying, and I always will be praying for you. And I will continue this peaceful and knowledgeable conquest to help bring healing to our nation, to our world. But where does it start? It starts in your home. It starts with your family. It starts around those who are on your dinner table. I'll be quiet with this. I once heard someone say, hey, I can't change the world. It was complaining about say the world. I can't change the world. The world is too this. The world is too that. And I remember leaving, overhearing that conversation and leaving, like really thinking about, well, maybe you say you can't change the world, but you can change your world. And your world is those around your dinner table. Your world is the people you're working, the reason why you go to work, the reason why you wake up, the reason why they're your world. And if you can influence them, if you can pour into them, you can pour in your children now, say, hey, there's some things that is going on in our world, in our society that we need to address. You know what I mean? And so, because again, the conversation is not, you're not telling me I can't drink in a water fountain anymore. Why? Because people stood up and addressed it. But there's some things you got to go deeper now than just superficial things. We got to go to the systemic issues of the matter, because there's a desperate need for the United States to go through some dialysis, because the problem is in the blood. I'm in love with what America could be, and I hope you are as well. So let's carry the mission of Dr. Martin Luther King. Let's keep dreaming, but don't be daydreamers. Be day doers, because the time is now. God bless you all. Reach out to me. Peace.